My name is Betty Olson-Jones. I'm the president of the Oakland Education Association, representing close to 3,000 teachers, nurses, psychologists, social workers, speech therapists, etc. And we're here today with representatives from the International Longshore and Warehousemen's Union. This is Jack Heyman, Victor Brooks, Stan Wood, and also with Shane Hoff from the United Transportation Workers, and Cindy Sheehan, who probably needs no introduction as a mom who has been fierce in her tenacity in fighting this war. A lot of people ask me, well, what's the relationship between teachers and the war in Iraq? Aren't you supposed to be teaching? I want to talk about a little thing that happened to me when I was a 5th grade teacher. 5 years ago, I had 4 little girls come up to me in the middle of the day. It was 5.5 years ago, right before the war in Iraq started officially. And they said, can we start a petition because we don't think President Bush should go to war? I said, absolutely, go ahead. Well, they started their own petition. They went around the schoolyard. They collected signatures from their friends, from their teachers, and pretty soon, by the end of the day, they had 118 signatures, which I think is pretty amazing when they were in school most of the day. They then wrote a letter to President Bush, were appalled when the letter they got back made no mention of their letters. They couldn't believe it. It was their first real exercise in civic understanding and education. They went on to write letters about their dreams about the war. They took a passionate interest, and because they were interested, their class took an interest, and their school took an interest. And by the end of the year, we had an amazing play that they performed for parents and students. It really taught the entire school that children do understand the connection. They understand the connection between killing and hatred. They understand that when their schools are poorly funded, and yet there's a war going on, there's something wrong. I often look at a website called Cost of War. Let's just look at what they've been funding. This is as of this morning. Taxpayers in California have paid $66.2 billion for the Iraq War thus far. For the same amount of money, the following could have been provided, and I'll just read a few. 935,039 music and arts teachers for 1 year. They're being cut as we speak. 6,619 new elementary schools. They're being closed. 950,651 elementary school teachers for 1 year. We can't keep teachers because of the way things are going. Almost a year ago, we participated in a really historic event. Teachers marched to the port, to the stevedore Services of America, and with the longshore workers shut down the port for not 1 shift but 2 shifts. Our demands were to end the war and full funding for education and social services. Our demands haven't changed. We stand proudly this May 1st with the Longshore Workers Union. We are asking our teachers, if they cannot leave school that day, to teach about the war that day.
Their picket last summer, in fact it was last May here in the Port of Oakland, in front of Stevedore Services of America, went for a full 24 hours. And it was an important message to get across to the community that right here in Oakland, we're the 4th largest port in the country. Over $30 billion worth of cargo crosses the docks here, and yet they're closing schools in Oakland, just a few blocks from the docks. There's not enough money for education? I don't think so. Oakland is not a poor city. And those containers that come across the docks are going to have to be taxed and make it available not only for education, but for other social issues in the community. The Local 10 banner that's behind me says, money for schools, jobs, health care, and housing, and not money for war and for oil and empire. And we made that banner at the beginning of the war, and it's more true today than it ever has been. People are losing their houses in this country, yet they want to bail out the big banks on Wall Street rather than protect the people whose homes are being taken from them. There's a real shortage of jobs in this country as well. So there's a social agenda that's not being addressed, and we feel very, very adamantly that the war in Iraq is the most important question. The fact of the matter is that over 80% of the people in this country, according to a New York Times CNN poll, see that this country is headed in the wrong direction. On May 1st, longshoremen up and down the coast will stop work to protest the war. There's no more important issue before the American working people than the war in Iraq. It's about the destruction of an entire country, society in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now they're threatening Iran. We want the troops home. That's what our members said at a meeting we had back in February. And it was our Vietnam vets that brought the point home very close to their heart. And they said, enough is enough. People are dying over there for nothing. It's not a war about democracy. It's for oil and empire.
I'm very grateful to the ILWU for taking the lead on this. As has been pointed out, this war, and I hate to call it a war, but this illegal and immoral occupation of another country is just totally sucking the life out of our communities, out of our schools, out of our families. Nothing good has come in the almost 8 years of the Bush administration. I'm very proud that the main action is happening in California's 8th District, which I will soon represent. And I hope that May Day is a continuing, that the militancy against this war and against the Bush administration and against the systems, that's what ILWU is doing. ILWU is challenging the system that gets us into this war, the capitalist, corporatist system. And until we confront that, I think it was Kissinger in Vietnam that said, let them march as long as they pay their taxes. But until we confront the system where it hurts people like Nancy Pelosi, people like Harry Reid, people like George Bush, we have to hurt them in the pocketbooks, because they're not going to be hurt like my family. They're never going to send a child off to an illegal and immoral war. And we have to talk, like Jack said, we have to talk about the human cost. It is mostly from our inner city children that are paying, and their families are paying for this war. And not only have we sacrificed over 4,000 of our young people, but millions of Iraqis have been killed or displaced. And we recently have found out that 18 veterans a day commit suicide. The money is taken away even from the veterans who they send to fight these illegal and immoral wars. 6 or 7 a day of those are Iraq veterans. That's about, quickly in my head, it's too much. 45 a week, almost 200 a month. More are committing suicide than have been killed in Iraq. We have to stand up to this, and we just can't stand up. We've done petitions, we've done marches. Nothing has worked. In fact, things have gotten worse. The Democratic Congress is thinking of giving George Bush even more money than he asked for to continue it into 6 months into the next president's administration. It doesn't matter who's going to be our next president. They have all been very confrontational and promising violence against Iran. And we can't let that happen. We can't let that happen to another sovereign people that are no threat to the United States of America.
We plan at 9:40 on May Day to observe a moment of silence and inactivity, which we hope will bring that message that we are in opposition to the war and that we are supporting the ILWU's action.
As public sector workers, we clearly see the toll this war has taken on our economy and on citizens' rights. At a time when opportunities for better paying jobs are needed, the tax dollars that could create these are being sunk into a war that has no direct benefit to any worker or citizen. The human costs of this war are overwhelming. The deaths, the injuries, and the terrible lack of funds for education, health care, and a host of other public services for citizens of this nation. We are proud to stand with our brothers and sisters in the ILWU and to declare no to this war, and yes to immigrant rights, and yes to a nation that cares for the people and their needs, not profit and greed.